What happens when a group of paranormal investigators start a conversation? You get Ghosts of the Coast Paranormal, the podcast. Tales of the dead, the bizarre, and all things supernatural. Join us now as we discuss some urban legends. Hi, and welcome back to Ghosts of the Coast Paranormal, the podcast. I'm Aaron.
I'm Deborah. Had to leave space for Linnea.
You did have to leave space for Linnea. Linnea, we miss you.
Yes,
Yeah,
we do.
you guys noticed that. Well, first of all, you noticed that we are like a day late on releasing an episode. We've been. It's just been a week. Last week it was just a week for everybody. So, we were gonna do it yesterday, which was Sunday. And we were just too tired. That's ultimately what it comes down to. We were just exhausted.
Last was a week.
Oh my gosh, it was a crazy week.
Mm-hmm.
But so we're here a day late and a dollar short, but thank y'all for sticking out with us. And so yeah, today we are going to talk about urban legends. It won't be a super long episode because I mean it really we I think we procrastinated a little bit. We got tired and just procrastinated a little bit. So we're recording this on a Monday, which it releases on a Monday. So if you woke up this morning and realized that there was no episode, this is it. Ta-da! This is it. So yeah, it's been a week. I started a new job last week, which has been fantastic thus far. So
Yeah.
I have been super tired when I get home because it's mentally just there's a lot. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to really diving into it and learning a lot more. I'm sure
You'll do great. You will do great at it.
I'm sure my bedtime will start getting earlier and earlier every night.
Go ahead, Deborah. Go ahead. Beat the chickens to bed.
Look, girl, last night I tried to go to bed early, right? But I was like, I stayed in bed all day yesterday. Like pretty much all weekend I was in bed. I was just tired. And so last night I'm getting ready for bed and I'm like snugging in and my husband's got like a cold, of course, man flu. I'm just kidding. He doesn't listen to this, but um so I was snuggling into bed. My husband's sleeping on the couch because when he gets sick, that's his favorite place to sleep. And I was snuggling up next to Blanche, and about 10 minutes after snuggling, she jumps up and like freaks out. Girl, her foot fell asleep.
Oh, bless her heart.
Oh my God. I was like, what the hell is going on? At least I hope her foot fell asleep. But she was just like, she couldn't move and she would get up and try and put weight on her foot and like she fell off the bed. I was like, Blanche.
Oh.
But I mean she's fine now. Like she got right back up in bed after.
That is a scary thing. That is a
Oh my
scary thing.
God. I was
Shine
like,
just rolled off of mine, and my bed is real high up.
yeah.
I have to get up on my tiptoes to get in the bed, and I'm not short by any means. And
I,
yeah, he fell off the bed, and I'm like, oh God, he's broke something.
Well, I mean, she fell. The way she fell on my husband's side of the bed, which is
Mhm.
like between the wall and the bed. So
Oh,
she
she got
bonked her
that
head.
one.
She bonked her head on the wall, and then of course, because it scared her. She went and got up under the bed. I'm like, no, come here, let me check on you, come here. I mean, it scared the shit out of me. Lord have mercy, it scared the mess out of me. But she's good. Like she got right back up in bed and jumping up and down. But her poor foot had fallen asleep, and I felt so bad for her. Oh, anyway, so yeah, so tonight we are going to talk a little bit. I'm gonna try and this is gonna be more of a raw episode because that way I can still get it released out on time.
We're going to try to behave so there's very little to no editing that has to be done on Aaron's part.
Because Aaron's tired
Blah.
and I still have to go make dinner. Oh goodness. But yeah, tonight we're gonna talk about a couple of urban legends. Um and I got a couple of urban legends from, and they're not really like well known urban legends, but the Reddit side of things too. So like people's stories that they've been told growing up. Um, is there an urban legend that you've been told or that you've been aware of growing up, other than the Mako lights?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
We had one when I lived in New York. We had one, um, and it was the Pig Man. And I think I was in
Oh,
um
Lizard Man.
the Lizard Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So before we get into the Pig Man, um, and our other urban legends. So the definition of an urban legend is a humorous or horrific story or piece of information that's been circulated as if it's true. It's basically a rumor, especially one reporting to involve someone vaguely related or known to the teller. So like my cousin's best friend saw this guy and he had a hook for a hand and he was the hook serial killer or something like that.
Oh, God.
Which there is an urban legend called the hook.
Really?
So yeah, we might have to make this like a multi-parter. But
Okay.
because there's a lot of them out there. But I'll tell you about mine first. Um, so I think I was a freshman in high school, and I was living in New York at the time, in a town called Angola, New York. Not too much goes on there, um, but there is a local legend, the legend of the Pig Man. Essentially, what happens is there's a bunch of different stories. One story is that he is the local butcher and he, you know, killed killed men, boys, teenagers that would come into his property. Um, and then there was a train accident, and that a lot of people on the train died, and some of them were really, really burned and mangled.
Mhm.
And so now they say if you go to the down Pigman Road, you will hear pigs squealing. You will hear cries of the dead that died in the train crash. You will hear you will see shadows of a pig man. Um and weird things have been known to happen there. So, um, so with the Pigman, I've actually been out there. It wasn't that far from my home. When I lived up in New York, and it we went out there one time. My stepdad drove us out there. Girl, I kid you not, we start going back there. You have to like turn out the headlights and stuff like that. All of this stuff going back there. And so he turns out the headlights, and you have to like stop and listen for a minute. How about when he went to turn the car back on? It
You
didn't
want
want
to
to.
think,
It wouldn't crank. I was. That terrified me.
I bet it did.
I don't want to be stuck anywhere where my car won't crank. But anyway, so that's my experience.
I said the lizard man. It was not the lizard man. It was the Sydney monster. We
The
had a
what?
lady that it was called the Sydney monster. There's a little community between Tabor City and Whiteville, North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
that's called Sydney. And this lady lived there not far from the post office in
Yeah.
this community. Bless her heart, she was not mentally developed. You know, she had a lot of things that just weren't fully developed.
Right.
But her imagination was overdeveloped. She was sweet as she could be, but she come into town and it was all over the local newspapers. It was on the local news on TV where she was talking about this. That's how it got the name, the Sydney Monster. She was describing it kind of like do you remember the song The Purple People Eater?
Oh yes.
Okay. Kind of sort of like that. But she says this thing flew into her house, drunk hot coffee out of the pot, and boiling coffee out of the pot, and hot grease out of the frying pan.
Okay.
That's about all I can remember. I mean, that's been 40 plus years ago.
You
But
know what
yeah,
that sound? You know what that sounds like?
what?
Going back to our Christmas episode about the door sniffer, the
Uh-huh.
Yule lads.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, which is, I mean, that's definitely a wild imagination.
Well, I mean, she swore by it for years and years and years. You got a booger?
Do I? No. I think my neighbor's out. Look, I'm gonna end up having to edit this whole episode, but I think my neighbor's outside playing some music because I hear drums.
I can't hear nothing.
I don't hear it anymore. Going crazy.
You ain't got far.
Lord, Lord have mercy. See, yeah, I don't know. That's just if something were to come into my house like that, I'd be like, hold on. If you're gonna drink it or if you're gonna lick it and clean it and whatever, clean it. Lord have mercy.
This
Another yeah. So another one that I had. I mean, this one's a relatively new one to me. But apparently it's picked up some oomph, and that is called the Bunny Man. Uh,
What?
first of all,
That
first of
just
all,
don't sound natural.
no. Um, so essentially, what it takes place in Virginia. Um, and it originated from like everything has truth in something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this originated in Virginia in 1970, but it spread throughout like the DC and Maryland area too. So the legend um, has many variations, Most involve a man wearing a rabbit costume who attacks people with an axe or a hatchet. Yeah. Um
Well, hell.
yeah. So, as every urban legend, versions of the legend vary from person to person telling it. Some people some people claim the man is in a bunny costume. Some don't. I mean, hell, if the Easter Bunny started hopping after me with with an axe or a hatchet, I would be terrified.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um.
yeah. It wasn't
So
fun for because I'd probably die.
right. Um. So this actually occurred. Uh, it looks like it had occurred. There were two incidences that occurred 10 days apart. In 1970. You remember like the killer clown
Yeah,
phenomenon here? That's
yeah.
kind of what this is. Like it kind of just took off, and people kind of, you know, I'm sure at that point, like, uh, bunny costumes were like the rage for
Flying
Halloween that
off the
year.
shelves, yeah.
Yeah.
Copycat.
Um. Yeah. Um. So there's an overpass called Colchester's Overpass. Um. That is also like Bunny Man's Bridge. And so during Halloween, this comes from Wikipedia. During Halloween,
That right there's why Deborah don't do bridges. Every
yeah.
stinking bridge has got something attached to it.
Um. So Halloween 2011, over 200 people. Some is from places as far away as Pennsylvania. Were turned away during a 14-hour traffic checkpoint into that area to the bridge, to the overpass.
Okay.
Simply for the fact that they wanted to go and investigate it and all that. I ain't investigating no bunny man. Hell no.
No.
Scares me. Scary.
Nope. I'll take my chances with the Jersey Devil first.
so, so so this next one comes to, um, the vanishing hitchhiker. I've heard so many variations of this one. Have you ever heard of this one?
I've heard several different variations. I mean, nothing right around here,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So, gotta stay hydrated. Uh, so the vanishing hitchhiker. Yeah, I've never heard of anything around here, but the closest one that I have heard of, I think, is up near Washington, North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
which is about a 4 or 5 hour or 4.5 hour drive from here, or 3.5 hour drive. Um, so essentially, the vanishing hitchhiker, how that works is it can be late at night, and this is why people tell you don't pick people up at night.
Don't pick up hitchhikers.
Don't pick up hitchhikers in general, but don't pick up anybody at night. Um, so story typically goes your person's driving their car, they're coming home from a business trip or a night out on the town with the crew, and it's usually a male driving, and it's a single person, like just one person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so then as they're driving down this dark highway, they see a woman, usually this very beautiful, long flowing
Oh, hey,
dress. Yeah.
everybody gonna stop for an ugly woman?
I'd be out there hitchhiking, hiking my home. Like, come on. Um, so he sees the woman, he pulls over, and she gets in the car, and she's usually very specific. I need to get here, this specific address. And so he pulls up to the house, and watches her, she says thank you, and he watches her walk into the house. Well, some variations have she leaves a sweater or something behind.
Right.
So the next day, the driver will go to the house with the sweater in hand and knock on the door, and it's usually the spouse of the woman will answer, and they'll say, "Oh, well, she's been dead for 10 years."
Can
So,
you imagine if that's true? Can you imagine how many knocks have been on that door?
right. Right. I think at some point you'd have to put up a sign or whatever.
I couldn't imagine having to relive that over and over and over
No.
and over again.
Oh my gosh, I know.
That would drive me crazy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just constantly getting a knock on the door.
Well,
You
there's
know.
got to be somewhere along the line, there's got to be some kind of truth to it from one of these stories because, I mean, think about all the songs that's been written.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's I've been on a scare like most haunted places in America kick,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been several so far. I mean, I'm not too far into it, but there's been several that have been like, and then she got in the car, and then all of a sudden she vanished from the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. Like, there's definitely some truth. I think there's some truth in everything. It's just a matter of like
How much?
how how people take it.
Yeah. Well, as good as I do, I've got a thought in my head, and I tell it to you, and you tell it to the next person, and they tell it to the next person, and by the time it gets back to me from 6 people or 60 people, it's
Oh
completely
yeah,
changed, and 2 words might be the truth of what I said.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's one big. That's the thing is. Hi, Blanche. Come here.
Hey,
That's
Blanche.
that's the thing is like you have um you have people, storytellers throughout the generation. Hold on a second. All right, out, out, out. Go, 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 go. I'm still not editing that out. Y'all, I really don't want to have to edit tonight.
No, if it comes out, it's going on the show.
It's going out. So, um, but I mean, that's the thing with like storytelling. Like, it's passed down from generation to generation to generation, but it's all just one big game of telephone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, not only that, like you think too, like the dialects have changed too. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
what might have started, you know, back when my ancestors were in England, right?
Mm-hmm.
And getting that story passed down to here, think about how many translations of the Bible there are.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh,
things
yeah.
are constantly going to get scrambled and muddled. So, I mean, yeah, it's just one big game of telephone. Um, so some of the others, like I said, we're gonna have to make this like a multi-part series where we just get
Yeah.
into A lot of them. But some of these, it's funny because some of these are like ghost stories that I remember telling um, with friends growing up. You have
One of the ones I want us to dig deeper into is Lake Norman.
yeah. I have some family that lives up there.
Well, there's supposedly a town under the lake,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a monster in the lake.
Yep. The
So
Lake Norman Nessie, right?
I
It's
don't
it's not
remember what it was called.
yeah, it's not Nessie, but it's like something
Yeah,
Americanized.
yeah.
Um, so some of the other and like I said, we'll get into them later, like at another date and time. But some of the ones that I do remember saying or telling as a kid would be the Legend of the Hook. You know, uh, have you heard about that one?
No.
So um, this couple's up on Makeout Hill or whatever. Um, and they hear on the radio station, oh, there's a killer in the area, and
Yes, I have.
yeah. Like a lot
Yeah.
of movies portray it. Well, the killer has a hook for a hand, and that's how he
He
kills
supposedly
people.
runs it down the side of the car or something.
Yeah. Like so, they start hearing, you know, the boy, of course, is like, oh, we're fine, we're good, and the girl's like, no, I'm scared, take me home. So they start hearing the rub it along the side of the car, and then they have they both start getting freaked out, and
Just imagining that sound makes your skin crawl.
oh, and then when they get home, when he gets home to let her like walk her to the door, on her door, he gets out, walks around the car, on her door is the hook is hanging there. Yeah, it's creepy. That's a creepy one.
I don't know if you have to worry about me getting back in another car.
Uh,
I sure wouldn't be going sparking with my boyfriend.
no, no.
Mm-mm.
So now what I want to do, I want to save a lot of these for later when we can really do a deep dive into them.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But I am going to share um a few stories from Reddit about people's own personal urban legends.
Go for it.
So this is from the subreddit of Ask Reddit. And the topic is urban legends, of course. The title is "What's the creepiest urban legend you've ever heard?" Um, so Sin314 posted 2 years ago and says, "I'm not sure if this counts, but back in elementary school, we had a rumor that spread like wildfire. A
Good.
wildfire. I keep wanting to say wildflowers."
Yeah.
That spread like wildfire, that the janitor had died in the basement and that her body was rotting. The police eventually came around to check if that was true, but still the story circulated for years, even after they left school. Spooky.
Mm.
Um, this comes from Ski Rule 69, and there's a little piece of cake next to the name too. Again, this was posted 2 years ago. Quote, my wife grew up in St. Joseph, Michigan. On the outskirts of town was a long, creepy tunnel that ran under the highway. It was said that once you crossed to the other side of the tunnel, you entered Melonhead territory. Have you ever heard of the Melonheads?
Yep.
I think we got to do an episode on them one day.
Yep.
Melonheads were deformed people who would find your car, beat it with clubs, and drag you screaming into the dark, dense woods. Scared the shit out of her as a little girl. when her older brother took her and her friend for a ride there. She took me once and I agreed it had a very ominous feel, but by then had mostly been converted to high end housing. Still an interesting story, though.
Yeah, I mean, with that concept sitting back there in your brain, you're waiting for something. It don't matter what it looks like now.
Right. Yeah, that would be like us, going to look for the Lucas Bay Light. I mean, it's pretty much like there's houses around that area,
Right.
but that'd be us like just straight up going and just looking for it, like waiting and expecting.
But
Um,
it would be even creepier for me and even more so for Jeff because we knew what it looked like before.
right, right. So you'd be anticipating that.
Yes.
Here comes another one. So this is from View Exit 7745. Quote, in my country, there was a half human, half snake that lurks in the basement and appears in the dressing rooms of certain department stores. There were two celebrities who allegedly saw this and was said to be paid big bucks by the mall owner in order to keep it a secret. Despite this, it still became big news when the said celebs revealed their experience. First of all, I don't do snakes, so that would terrify the stuff out of me. Uh,
I could handle that slithering snake better than I can half human, half spider.
right.
I can't.
Yeah.
Nope. Anything more than four legs, I ain't got no business with messing with it.
Yeah, no. I don't know. A lot of these are pretty interesting. So this is Moles Mini Mart.
Okay.
Yeah, and this person says definitely the Goat Man, as told by Anansi. Anansi. The Goat Man is already an urban legend, but that particular story of the experience perfectly distills the horror of it. Being that infiltrates a small group seemingly effortlessly, without question, but so non human it only mimics speech without comprehension, like an animal that learned the trick of speaking. The rest, or it rests in the uncanny valley of creatures. I've heard of the Goat Man, um, and I think every state has a version of the Goat Man,
Yeah.
but I don't want to come across it.
No, no. Mm-mm. No goat man, no pig man, no snake man. No.
Why's it always got to be a man?
Because we smarter than that. We smart enough to be sirens.
Yeah, that's what we got so far.
You know,
Well,
it's crazy. I, the imagination that kids have.
oh my god. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you can take something this big, and as a kid, we can make it this big.
Oh, yeah. Like I remember, yeah. Oh, I remember um as a kid, I would go to like my great grandmother's house or something, and I would go to, you know, go fishing off the pier. And I remember like as a kid, like we one of the big things that we would do, we would go crabbing. So we would go out and drop our pots. And I remember as a kid, like this is freshwater, Pamlico Sound, North Carolina. I remember as a kid thinking crabs were like this big,
Mm-hmm.
but as an adult, and I'm like
They're like this big.
this big. I'm like, that's it, really? So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, definitely. I think the imagination of a child is wonderful.
It's amazing.
It
It is
is.
amazing.
It is something else. But yeah, I encourage adults to still have an imagination. I think that's why we're so good at what we do with the paranormal,
Yeah,
because we allow that part of our brain to function
we've
regularly.
not closed it off.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things my mama done with us when we were growing up, is, we didn't have a whole lot. I mean, she was a single mama, couldn't afford to take us out and do things, so
Mhm.
she would come up with things to entertain us. So, especially in the summertime, we would get out in the yard with a blanket and lay and look at the clouds.
Yeah.
And if you'll just lay there and look at them, a lot of the clouds will take on the shape of something.
Right.
And I will
Yeah.
still, sometimes when I get so frustrated during the summertime, I will lay a blanket or a beach towel out in my side yard
Mhm.
and just lay there and look at the clouds, looking for the different shapes. You forget about everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. One day I was in high school, and I'm the oldest kid, so all of my siblings are relatively, you know, between six and 6 and onward younger than me. Um, so one day I was a freshman in high school, and we had a snow day because I went to high, but our listeners might not know. I'm from the South, but I went to high school in New York, and then I moved back down to the South. So I was only up there for 4 years. And so my freshman year of high school, we had a snow day, and we couldn't. It was too cold to go out. We was pope. We didn't have no monies to do anything. The the it was blizzardy out. So my mom and I came up with the idea to do a circus with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So like we used mom's makeup, and we made clown outfits and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
everybody had a job for the circus.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, I wish everybody still had an imagination though. Like
A good
my
imagination.
yeah, like my niece, God love her, she's 8, and she's got her imagination is her imagination is funny. And like I will never forget when she was little. Like she was probably 4. She comes out of her bedroom, wheeling her like big old Mickey Mouse suitcase, and has like an old phone in her hand, and goes, "I'll be back. I'm going to work." Like walks off wheeling her suitcase, and
Well, girlfriend.
she comes back, and I was like, "Well, how was work?" And she goes, "It was just, I'm so over the day." I said, "Girl." She's like 4. And she goes, "Here, hold my money." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I said, "Well, because Aaron had to stay home and watch the baby while she
Right.
went to work. So I said, "Well, I need money for groceries and for this baby." And she goes, "I just don't have time right now." It's like, I mean, I wish everybody would just hold on to their imagination as
Out of the
long as they
mouths
can.
of babes.
Girl, I'm telling you, like I used to go back when I was in probably what, third or fourth grade, when Survivor really started. Um I would go we had my house was at the very bottom of a hill in the neighborhood, and we had um like through my front window you could see like a little bridge that's got
Mm-hmm.
like the big old tubes that go under it, the
Yeah.
daggum sewer pipes, and a creek runs through it. Well, me and my friends, we would go down there and we would play Survivor. Like, we would meet up at my front yard, and that's where we would do our immunity challenges and stuff. And then we would split up into teams and go on either side of the creek. And then we would like go and play at, the immunity challenges at my front yard or their front yard. And like, we would take at one of my friends' house, they would always have like incense, or like the big giant stick incense, or like the big giant like fireplace matches.
Mm-hmm.
So we would always take those down to the creek and like put them in the ground, and then be like, "Oh, we have our fire. Yeah, we have our fire. We have our torch."
Mm.
Oh, but yeah. So there we have it, urban legend. But yeah, no, this was a fun episode. I definitely want to dive deeper into the different urban legends.
Oh yeah.
But tonight, we were just crunched for time.
Well, what we can do is we can make us a list and put them in a hat.
Yeah,
Pull one out of the hat. That's what we talk
I
about.
like it. I like it. So, but yeah. Got
Cool.
anything else?
No.
Hopefully, I hope we miss Linnea this week. It's weird when it's only two of us recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hopefully Linnea will be able to come back on for next week.
I hope so.
So we miss you if you're listening.
Yes, we do miss you, Sissy Pooh.
Mm-hmm. But there y'all have it, urban legends. Let us know what urban legends you've heard, and if you have any from when you were growing up that you were told. And until next time, y'all come back now, you hear?